Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept the View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo-Nazis,
Sunny Hostin didn't just stumble, she completely cracked under the pressure of live television, leaving audiences stunned in disbelief as her confidence shattered in real time. What was supposed to be another episode of The View turned into a national spectacle of humiliation, and the internet wasted no time turning her unraveling into viral history. Charlie Kirk didn't even have to share the stage with her to deliver the blow. He humiliated Sunny from afar, with precision so sharp it cut through her carefully crafted persona like a knife through paper. By the time his points began circling, Hostin was left desperately gasping for footing, visibly shaken and struggling to hide the cracks in her composure. This wasn't just a heated debate, it was a televised demolition. Hostin's elitist remarks about uneducated white women blew up in her face, and the audience sat frozen, unsure whether to clap or cringe as she tried to spin her way out of the mess. Every second of hesitation only amplified her collapse. Charlie Kirk wasted no time hammering down her narrative.
Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding.
just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. But I said this to our team. I said working people, the muscular class, including working women, they are so in favor of Trump and they don't want to be called stupid or uneducated.
Tearing into her claims with words that carried the force of a wrecking ball. His rebuttal didn't just challenge her, it crushed her argument until there was nothing left but awkward silence and strained smiles from the table of hosts. The impact was instant. Clips of her meltdown spread across platforms like wildfire, turning Hostin into the unfortunate face of elitist arrogance, collapsing under pressure. Twitter lit up, TikTok loops mocked her facial expressions, and YouTube commentators replayed her stammers with merciless detail. But the most brutal part wasn't the internet reaction. It was the apology. For a woman who prided herself on intellectual sharpness, being forced to admit, "My bad, I'm sorry," live on television was a humiliation so raw it shook her reputation to its core. The moment screamed defeat louder than any headline could. Viewers could see the unraveling in her body language. Her hands fidgeted, her eyes darted toward the teleprompter as if begging it for rescue, and her once commanding voice wobbled like a tower seconds away from collapse. Every movement betrayed the confidence she no longer had. Charlie Kirk, meanwhile, celebrated without even setting foot on the stage. He weaponized his platform, releasing videos, edits, and sound bites that shredded Hostin's ideology while making sure she had no escape from the tidal wave of backlash. His online army made sure the humiliation stuck. This wasn't just a stumble, it was a full-blown implosion. Hostin underestimated the age of digital warfare, where one clip, one facial expression, or one failed argument can define you forever. And she had just become the unwilling poster child of political humiliation.
But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last weekend.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk about.
What made it worse was that Kirk didn't just hit her ideas, he dismantled the entire elitist ecosystem she represented. The educated, polished, above-the-people persona she projected crumbled under the weight of simple, blunt truths that resonated more than her condescending remarks ever could. As the exchange echoed across the country, it was clear Hostin had walked straight into a storm she didn't know how to handle. She had brought law school logic to what had turned into a meme war, and memes always win. The internet thrives on humiliation, and Sunny provided it on a silver platter. Her words about uneducated voters backfired so dramatically that even her co-hosts looked visibly uncomfortable on set. What was meant to be a sharp commentary quickly turned into a glaring display of elitism so tone-deaf that millions at home felt insulted just by watching. Charlie Kirk's response, meanwhile, was a masterclass in media dominance. He framed her as the symbol of arrogance out of touch with everyday Americans, and once that label stuck, no apology could peel it off. In the world of online politics, perception isn't just powerful, it's permanent. Sunny's breakdown became the story, overshadowing everything else. She wasn't the lawyer-turned-commentator that day. She was the face of fragility in the spotlight, her image replayed in slow motion on every reaction video across social media. The producers of The View are no strangers to chaos, but even they weren't prepared for this. What unfolded wasn't a fiery exchange. It was the quiet, humiliating collapse of one of their star voices.
White privilege is a racist myth that is rooted in bigotry, trying to classify people based on their skin color. If you are a racist, you have something to apologize for. If you're a white person who is not a racist, you have nothing to apologize for. And anyone who makes you apologize just based on the color of their skin, they're the racist and you're not.
President, open your
You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit. I want to make a quick clarification about the neo-Nazi Turning Point event. They were outside protesters. My point was more metaphorical, that you embraced them at your thing, I felt.
And the cameras captured every second of it with unforgiving clarity. Charlie didn't need to scream or rage. His calm dismantling and online packaging of her meltdown made it far more devastating. It wasn't a shouting match. It was a humiliation by silence, smirks, and the cold reality of being outmatched in a new kind of political battlefield. By the time the dust settled, Sunny Hostin's credibility had been shattered into 1,000 digital pieces. The meltdown had become a meme. The meme had become a weapon, and the weapon had become her new identity online. There was no way to undo what the world had already seen. The tragedy of it all was simple. Sunny thought she was playing in a debate, but Charlie Kirk was playing in a war. He knew the rules of modern media combat, and she didn't stand a chance. The second the clip went viral, her defeat was sealed in the court of public opinion. What once looked like a confident takedown attempt turned into a career-defining disaster. One remark, one collapse, and suddenly Sunny Hostin became the example of how fast media reputations can burn under the spotlight of viral culture. And as the applause died down in the studio, The internet roared louder than ever. Charlie Kirk walked away with victory, while Sunny Hostin was left to pick up the broken pieces of her credibility in front of an audience that will never forget her meltdown. Sunny's meltdown wasn't loud. It wasn't chairs flying or screaming matches. It was something far worse. It was subtle, silent, and devastating. The kind of collapse that shows in every nervous glance and shaky word, exposing a weakness she couldn't hide from the cameras.
Welcome back. In Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me, and it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, the state, the U.S.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk about. Maybe you should get the lawyer that worked on that Covington Catholic school case. What was that, a $200 million settlement? I think, Charlie, you could use the money, and your students definitely could, too.
Her supporters tried to downplay it, but the internet is ruthless. When one clip can be turned into a meme, no amount of PR spin can bury the embarrassment. Within hours, Sunny Hostin meltdown was trending across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, leaving her reputation in digital flames. Charlie Kirk didn't even break a sweat. He knew exactly how to control the optics, how to push a message that would dominate the narrative, and how to make sure Sunny's collapse wasn't just seen. It was replayed, remixed, and magnified until it became inescapable. For Sunny, it wasn't just about losing an argument. It was about losing her composure on a national stage. People don't remember who had the better facts. They remember who looked stronger. And on that day, she looked rattled, fragile, and overwhelmed. The apology that followed was the final nail in the coffin. Her words were short, awkward, and half-hearted, and instead of repairing her credibility, they only reminded viewers of the collapse they had just witnessed. Once you admit defeat on live TV, there's no undoing it. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk doubled down with his digital arsenal. He cut slick edits, added music, and packaged the humiliation into content designed to go viral. And viral it went. Millions of views poured in, making his victory even bigger and her defeat even harder to deny. The brilliance of Kirk's attack was in its simplicity. He didn't just argue, he exposed. He painted Sunny as the face of elitist arrogance, mocking ordinary Americans from the safety of her talk show platform.
And the final point I'll say is this, is Sunny, you guys thought that abortion was going to be this like quasi-zealot religious issue? I'm pro-life. If people in the audience aren't, that's fine. What I'm saying though, what gives me promise, and I think we can all agree on this, is that there are other issues that should animate and drive our politics other than this very divisive one. And I was really encouraged by that, Megan. Very encouraged, because the media was forcing this as an up or down vote on a referendum on a highly complicated, very emotional, very personal issue. And it turned out the American people were like, yeah, actually, these other 6 things matter more. And
that framing stuck harder than any counter-argument she could muster. Even her co-hosts looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats as the tension filled the studio. The energy dropped, the audience hesitated, and all eyes turned to Sunny as her remarks turned against her. It was the kind of silence that screamed louder than words. Charlie Kirk celebrated without gloating directly. He let the internet do the heavy lifting. His followers amplified the moment until Sunny's humiliation became a cultural talking point, proving once again that in modern media, perception is everything. Sunny's mistake was clear. She underestimated the power of optics. She thought she was delivering a cutting commentary, but what the audience saw was a woman cracking under pressure, a public figure losing her composure, and a voice of authority reduced to silence. It didn't matter how strong her resume was or how many debates she had handled before. This was the one that stuck. Because in today's world, people don't remember your career highlights. They remember the moment you broke on camera. And that's exactly what happened here. The clip was replayed on loop across news commentary shows, each one dissecting her body language, her words, and her inability to recover. It was no longer about what she said. It was about how she looked while saying it. And she looked completely defeated. Even her apology, short and awkward, only made the humiliation worse. It wasn't just a slip. It was an admission of weakness, and the internet pounced on it like sharks smelling blood. She didn't just stumble. She admitted she stumbled, and that sealed her fate.
I don't want to say too much, but we're going to have a lot of fun at the Department of Education. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Can I tell you something? Like, I've had quite a few people contact me about that particular post. Like, I'm sure I have 1/100th of what you're getting, but people are contacting me about cabinet posts. I'm like, I got
look,
nothing.
I mean, yeah, I'm actually, after this conversation, heading to Mar-a-Lago for a week. And we have a lot to sift through. And if I could be helpful, I have asked. I want to be actively involved in all things education, as you can imagine. And
Charlie Kirk, on the other hand, gained momentum like never before. His calm dismantling, paired with his online media machine, made him look untouchable, while Sunny looked like the symbol of collapse. The contrast couldn't have been more brutal. For The View, the moment was disastrous. Instead of controlling the conversation, they became the story, their credibility questioned, their judgment mocked, and their star commentator reduced to a viral punchline that won't be forgotten anytime soon. Sunny Hostin became the unwilling face of a media generation losing touch with ordinary people. Her elitist remarks revealed more than she intended, and Kirk's sharp takedown made sure the entire country saw exactly what she stood for and why so many rejected it. Sunny's collapse became bigger than politics. It became a pop culture moment. Reaction channels treated it like a boxing match, with Kirk declared the undisputed champion, and Hostin branded as the out-of-touch elitist who underestimated her opponent. What made it sting even more was that her breakdown wasn't about a heated clash. It was about optics. She could have had the best facts in the world, but it didn't matter because what the world saw was a woman losing control on live television. The producers of The View scrambled to control the fallout, but the internet had already decided the winner. Once memes take over, once commentary explodes, and once headlines pile up, the story is no longer in your hands. It belongs to the audience. Sunny Hostin's reputation as an unflappable commentator was gone in an instant. Years of credibility shattered by seconds of visible distress.
Over the weekend, Turning Point USA hosted a riveting event in Tampa, Florida called the Student Action Summit. Outside of the event were individuals waving flags and engaged in other activities. Well, on Monday's show, members of The View made a few comments about it.
The conservative group Turning Point USA has condemned the group of neo and said they have nothing to do with the organization.
Yeah, but where was DeSantis is what I want to know.
But you let them in.
President, open your
You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are
Captured forever in high definition and replayed endlessly by her critics. Charlie Kirk, meanwhile, celebrated quietly, letting his supporters do the talking. He didn't have to push the narrative anymore. The internet had already declared him victorious, and the humiliation of Sunny Hostin was the crown jewel of his digital triumph. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. Kirk looked calm, collected, and strategic, while Hostin looked shaken, defeated, and unprepared. It wasn't a debate anymore. It was a rout, a one-sided humiliation that would follow her for years to come. And that's the brutal truth. This wasn't just one woman's bad day on television. It was a moment that exposed the fragility of traditional media voices in the face of relentless online pressure. As the credits rolled on The View, Sunny Hostin was left with nothing but fragments of her shattered composure and the haunting reality that she had been humiliated in the most public way possible. And once the internet brands you with defeat, it never lets you go. In the end, Sunny Hostin's breakdown wasn't just a meltdown, it was a cultural warning shot. In today's media circus, the strongest survive, the weakest collapse, and humiliation spreads faster than truth ever could. And in this battle, Charlie Kirk didn't just win. He made history by turning a seasoned commentator into a viral cautionary tale forever remembered as the day Sunny Hostin broke down on live TV.